we're going to be looking at ordering real numbers on a real number line, and we're going to be using the irrational numbers and rational numbers listed below. So there is a group of real numbers listed below, and those are the numbers that we will be ordering. So we're going to first start by representing each real number in decimal form with 3 decimals. So we'll round to 3 places here. That's what we're going to end up doing. So if we started with the 5 and 11/13, I'm just going to take the 11/13 and figure out what that decimal part is. And now I know that it's 5, and I'm going to take that 8461. So I want to go to 4 decimal places because we are rounding to the 3rd decimal place. So I'm going to write down 5 and 8461 for 5 and 11/13. Now we're going to look at the square root of 30. So I would come over here, use my square root box, type in 30, and we're going to use 5.4772. That would be our 4th decimal place. When we get to our next number, it's a negative, and if we want to put a negative in this fraction, we could just hit the minus sign first. Then I could hit my fraction box, and that is, or my fraction bar, that's 84 over 25. And that gives us a negative 3 and 36 hundredths. So this number, this problem right here, this number doesn't go to 4 decimal places. It terminates, so it stopped at the hundredths place. Our next number is a negative 8 and 283 thousandths with the 83 repeating. So the next digit after that 3 is going to be an 8, so we'll write that down to the 4th to help us round. And our last one is pi squared. So I'm going to come to the calculator and use our pi symbol, and then I'll raise it to the 2nd power. In pi squared, we're going to use 9.8696. We'll copy down. So once we have all of our numbers put into the 4th decimal place, we're going to start rounding them out here. And I'm going to underline the 6. And I'll circle that 1, and that 1's not going to change the 6. So for this number here, for 5 and 11/13, we'll say that's 5 and 846 thousandths. And you'll notice that we're using the approximate symbol here. For the square root of 30, that 2 does not change the 7 at all. So that'll stay 5 and 477 thousandths. For the negative 84 and 25 hundredths, that would remain a negative 3 and 36 hundredths. For the negative 8 and 283 thousandths with the 883 repeating, we underline the 3, and that 8 is actually going to bump that up to a 4 there, so that's going to get bumped up to a 4. And then we had pi squared, and that 9 is going to get bumped up a unit to 10. So this actually is going to be approximately 9.870 that would round up to. So once we have our numbers rounded to the 3rd decimal place, we're going to start to order these from least to greatest. So we're going to look around here, and we should see that the pi squared, that is 9.870. That is going to be our greatest amount, so I'm going to start with that there. At the far right will be pi squared, because that is the biggest amount. And that's greater than everything. And now we want to see what is next. So our pi squared is gone. We're not worried about that anymore. The negatives obviously wouldn't be next, so we're down to these 2 numbers here. The 5s are the same. The 8 is bigger than the 4, which means that next would be 5 and 11/13, followed by the square root of 30. And now we're left with the 2 negatives. And when you deal with negatives, the smaller absolute value is actually the greater number. So we're going to compare 3 and 8. Negative 3 has an absolute value of 3, and negative 8 has an absolute value of 8. So that negative 3 is farther right on the number line, which means that that is going to be greater than the negative 8. So we would put a negative 84/25. And then in the front here on the left, our smallest is a negative 8.283 repeating there. And that's going to bring us to the third part, which is locating the real numbers on the number line. And we said our biggest number was pi squared, and that's approximately 9 something. And our smallest number was the negative 8.283 repeating. So on our number line, if we were to create a number line here, we're going to go from like negative 9 all the way up to a positive 10. So we're going to go from negative 9 all the way up to a positive 10. And when we plot our number line, and we plot our points on our number line, it would look something like this below here. So this number line is going from negative 10 all the way up to a positive 10. And you can see where all the numbers are plotted between those points.